Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today's video I'm going to be giving you my tips on how to get a first in your dissertation. I feel like this is a good time for me to make this video because although most of you doing your dissertation would have already come up with your question and all of that stuff and got it going, actually around Christmas and the New Year is where you really start thinking about writing it up. So real quick, I just want to give a background into my actual dissertation. I'm not going to get into the boring details of what I actually did it on, but just some background information so you guys can know my story. So I did a psychology degree, and actually we don't call them dissertations, we call them research projects. Most dissertations are basically, in a nutshell, a huge literature review and then a huge essay, usually around like 8 to 10 or plus thousand words. In psychology, in our research project, instead of a huge essay, it's actually a study. You have to design your own study and carry it out, and then you write it up in something that's called a report, psychological or a scientific report. That report for us was 6,000 words, and then we also had a scientific poster as well to present the findings. The report was 6,000 words. That was worth 85% of our grade, and then the poster was only worth 15% of the grade. Thank God, because most people hate posters, including me. Term 1 was just planning for us. So in term 1 we actually spent a lot of time just trying to decide a question and a research topic and then actually planning it, because when you want to do a study you have to think about all the logistics of it. I thought over Christmas I would start drafting up the method section, because at that point we already knew what we were going to use and what methodology we were using. So I started doing that, and then in second term we actually started data collection, and kind of that's when I started thinking about actually writing it up. But if you guys were following my journey, you would know that I actually had to have a surgery and it was not planned. Found out, I think, end of January that I needed to have it, and then it was scheduled to happen in March. My goal was to finish all of my reading before my surgery and then finish my method section and send my supervisor the draft of that so he could give me feedback. And then basically post-op I had 7 weeks to submit it. I did get an extension. I got a 2-week extension on it. Actually, the first 2 weeks post-op I didn't do any work because I was still on drugs and feeling the side effects of the drugs. I was tired and nauseous all the time. I literally physically couldn't do any work. So after that, I was still recovering, but I wasn't on drugs anymore, or like the really heavy drugs. I had 5 weeks. I wrote up the majority of my dissertation in 5 weeks, including planning it, not just writing it. But bear in mind, before my actual surgery, or before those 5 weeks, I'd finished all of my reading. There was no further literature review to be done. And yeah, here it is. Here she is, my pride and joy, first class. This is my actual, it's all binded and everything. It has the feedback on the front and my marks. So on the actual report, which was 6,000 words, I got 75%. And then on the poster, I got 67%, and that balanced out to 74%, which is a first. So I got a first in my dissertation. Yay. So let's actually just get into my tips. So my first tip for you guys, and actually the most important one I'm going to start with, if you're going to take away anything from this video, please let it be this tip, and that is the importance of time management and being organized. Break up what you need to do in sections. Now, in my case, it was made a bit easier for me because I have it already broken up into different sections of the abstract, the intro, method, findings, and discussion. And you want to set yourself deadlines on when you want to complete each section by. Don't just go by, oh, it's not due until May, and kind of organize your time that way. You want to split it up even more so that you have your own deadlines that you've set for yourself. As well as having that end deadline in May, you'll have a deadline for when you can get feedback from your supervisor by. And also with a lot of unis and courses, you're only allowed feedback on a certain amount of your project or your dissertation. So for us, he was only allowed to read a draft of and give feedback of our method and our findings, which are kind of the easier sections of our report, because the intro and the discussion is where you have to really do wider reading, use academic language, like use good structure, tell a story, that kind of stuff. I'm going to show you guys a basically this is a plan I made post-op. I actually showed it in one of my vlogs post-op. So you can see that at the top I have made a to-do list. So I've got write up my results, brush up on my method, because obviously although I'd written a draft of it, the reality is you have many drafts before, you know, the final piece. Come up with my discussion plan and send it to my supervisor. Finish my literature review for my intro. So this was actually, I think, 6 weeks before. So I had 1 week to finish my literature review before that 5-week period commenced, where I was planning and writing everything up. In-depth plan and write up my introduction, write up the discussion and conclusion, and then write my abstract, and then all the other stuff that comes at the end, appendix, reference as I go, instead of leaving it all to the end, and then finally actually do my poster. That was actually a list of 10 things that I had to do in 5 weeks, and then I had a time frame of 5 weeks. So I put each week and then what I wanted to complete each week. So I want to talk about the reading, because obviously before this 5-week period commenced, where I wrote everything up, I finished all of my reading. I found the majority of my reading on Google Scholar, and I really like Google Scholar. For some people, Google Scholar is not, it's not like, I don't know, there's a lot of other things you can use, but for me, like during my whole degree, I pretty much only used Google Scholar, and it was good enough for me. And also on Google Scholar, you can filter things by dates and stuff, so you can do like a general look into the literature, but then you can kind of look at your list of readings and see, do you know what, I don't have enough papers that were published in the last 5 or 10 years. It's always really important to keep your research up to date. I had about 12, I'm just going to calculate it roughly, I had about 12 references per page, so 12, 24, 36, 48, 60. I had roughly 60 references for a 6,000 word report. That being said, I read a lot more than what I kept in my actual reports, which might seem excessive, but if you have the time, then it's better to overread than not read enough. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys a screenshot of my actual template for my literature review. So it's all well and good doing lots of writing, but the most daunting thing is, how do I actually set this out? Pretty much how I set it up was I had a table where I had the title of the paper, then I had a section called method/objectives, and then their findings and conclusions in the final column. Each row was a different study looking at that relationship, and then at the bottom of the table, if I scroll down, oh my god, this is a long document, I had them all listed out with their actual URL links, so I could go to that page if I needed to. The next tip I have is to make the most of your supervisor. Go to all of your meetings that you can with them. It's really helpful to actually see them face to face rather than doing everything over email, and go to each meeting prepared with any questions that you have, because they're there to answer that. Another huge tip that I had, which I'm so glad I did, was to look at other exemplars of dissertations. So on my actual university website, they had put up dissertations, psychology dissertations in the past that were first class. Obviously make sure you're not plagiarizing or anything, but having those examples was so useful. If I was ever unsure about how to structure my dissertation or how long each section would be, I'd look at those examples of first class dissertations and I'd use them to kind of help me decide how to structure my dissertation. The next tip is one that's very self-explanatory, but it's just to plan each section before you start writing it. Don't just have huge literature review and then go straight into writing. You want to organize your reading into different points, plan what you're going to say, and then write it up. I cannot stress that enough. When I look back at my folder of my dissertation, I have several drafts and several plans before the actual final section. And then you have the actual writing, and there's not really much I can say to tell you guys like how to write a good essay. You just have to have faith in yourself. Like at this point, you guys have written so many essays over your 3 years at uni. Like, you guys know how to write an academic piece of writing. You have past essays that you can refer to look at your writing style and also your feedback for those essays. But just know that whatever you write, you're probably going to go back and change anyway, because you're going to have several drafts. So just do it. Like, just have self-belief that you can do it. You've written essays before, you know how to write academically. And then I want to say that you want to proofread your dissertation literally hundreds of times. You want to read through it and read through it and read through it and read through it and read through it. You want to do that as much as you can, because you will spot errors that you've made, grammatical errors. There are certain things that Word doesn't actually pick up on. I do also want to mention real quick a website called tutoredit.com. This is not sponsored by them, but I just wish I knew about this service when I was writing my dissertation or just when I was doing my degree. So basically, they are a service that proofreads your essays or your dissertations for you. They do also offer a bunch of free services as well, which is really cool. Free essay structuring, so essay templates. They have dissertation question ideas on their websites for different subjects. They also help you with phrasing in your essays. If you do want to use their proofreading services, you can actually use my code SelinaH10 to get 10% off. So I'll leave that in the description box down below. And then the very final tip I want to give is to make sure you don't leave all your referencing until the end. When I did like my normal essays in my degree, I was one of those people who left all my referencing till the end. With your dissertation, you truly don't want to be one of those people who left it till the end. It will take you actually days. And yeah, I think those are all of the tips I have, guys, for a dissertation and how I got a first class dissertation, or how to get a good grade in your dissertation, because 2-1 is still amazing. Really hope you found this video useful. If you did, and make sure to smash the thumbs up down below, subscribe down below if you haven't already, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.